Hey, this is Maximo and welcome to Maximo's Travels. In this video, I'll be reviewing the Air New Zealand flights from Melbourne to Auckland and Auckland to San Francisco. I'll be reviewing the Plaza Premium Lounge at Melbourne Airport. I'll be checking out the world's dirtiest airport windows. I'll be reviewing the cabin, the seats, the meals, and the entertainment system for NZ Flight 8 and 124 across the Pacific, and I'll be determining the comfort level and the value for money for Air New Zealand Skycouch across the Pacific as well. Join me for this interesting flight review. Hey, it's Maximo. Welcome to Maximo's Travels. I'm at Melbourne Airport, ready to head off to Canada. This video will be an end-to-end flight review of our trip from Melbourne to Auckland to San Francisco. We set off just after 7 AM for Melbourne Airport. It was a bright blue sunny sky day and it was late May. We were to take a number of flights, New Zealand 124 from Melbourne to Auckland and New Zealand Flight 8 from Auckland to San Francisco. Our ultimate journey was to Calgary in Canada, but I'll save the third leg of that flight for a separate video review. In fact, we got there nearly 4 hours before our scheduled departure. Air New Zealand don't open their check-in until 3 hours before departure, so we had about 45 minutes to enjoy a coffee and a bite to eat at a cafe before we did actually check in. And check-in was a bit of a rigmarole. There were some sort of issues putting the right codes on our passport to allow us entry into both the US as well as Canada. But after it took quite a few minutes to sort that out, it was actually a breeze going through customs and the security check, and we were soon making our way to the departure lounge. Along the way, I saw what was perhaps the dirtiest set of windows I've ever seen in an airport in my life. Here's a view of it. It didn't provide much of a view of the planes or the tarmac. Because of my American Express card, I had a choice of 3 lounges to visit. The first, the Mahabra Lounge. Second was the Plaza Premium Lounge. And thirdly was the Amex Centurion Lounge. I'd been to the Amex Lounge before, so I decided to go to the Plaza Premium Lounge this time. In fact, the Plaza Premium Lounge is located right next door to the Amex Lounge and shares the same toilet facilities. Neither of these lounges have shower facilities, so if you're wanting to have a shower, you should try the Mahabra Lounge, which does have showers. The lounge was split into a couple of areas. One, a sort of more casual eating area that was adjacent to the buffet kitchen, and another area that had lounge chairs and it was a little bit more intimate and a little bit quieter. It was reasonably early and the lounge wasn't very busy the time that we visited. And unlike the Amex Lounge next door, this lounge had abundant of natural light courtesy of windows that looked out onto the departure gates and let a lot of light to stream through. The meals situation, well, the coffee machine was on the blink, so if you wanted a coffee, you needed to go outside the lounge to get one. The food was very well presented, very high quality, but I'd have to say, I'm not sure whether it's the time of day, but the range of food available was quite limited. I was able to get a few bits and pieces that were gluten-free. That was enough to keep me going until the flight. The food service was closed just before noon while they swapped from the breakfast menu to the lunch menu, and I've got to say the lunch menu did look a lot more appealing and extensive than the breakfast one. We didn't try any of the lunch items because we had a plane to catch, but it did look quite nice if in fact there weren't many gluten-free options. After a pleasant stay in the lounge, we made our way to the plane. We walked through the departure gate and onto the plane itself. I can't ever recall having flown with Air New Zealand before, and I was really looking forward to the experience. We specifically booked these flights because of the Sky Lounge, and I'll explain what that's all about later on in the video. Our first flight was NZ 124, flying from Melbourne to Auckland. It was in a Boeing 777-300 in a 343 configuration. The average age of these planes is 12.6 years, but somehow it looked much newer, cleaner and fresher inside. They must have been recently refurbished. The seats were quite comfortable, of a good size, and there was ample leg room. I'm only about 5'7", but I had oodles of leg room. There was a charging point on the back of the seat, ample storage in the seat pockets, and a fairly decent entertainment system. The touchscreen was quite small. It was either 9 or 11 inch, and it had quite a good selection of movies and TV shows, but it did suffer from reflection. You can see here in the picture, you can see my own reflection and the camera reflection in the screen. The image did get better as the ambient light in the cabin reduced. There was also a plug for headphones at the bottom of the TV screen. The screen was reasonably responsive, swapping between different menus, but it did take a few seconds to load all the movies and TV shows. And no, I didn't watch Frozen. I just wanted to see how long it'd take between hitting the play button and getting the movie started. And it did take quite a few seconds, as you can see.
Personal electronic devices must be removed now. Please make sure your screen is available so you can watch the safety video and your remote controls is put away now.
Quite comfortable seats, quite supporting the back, don't you think, Jen? Yeah. A little bit narrow, but you know, not too bad.
I've had narrower.
Yeah, it's had narrow. Not too bad. The supplied headphones looked cheap and nasty, but worked surprisingly well. In fact, I used them rather than my noise-cancelling headset on this leg of the flights. We were allocated seats 39G and 39F. Unfortunately, we weren't frequent flyer members, and we didn't have the opportunity to pick our seats, let alone window seats. We were in the air for about 3/4 of an hour, and our meals were served. Joe and I ordered special meals. Myself a gluten-free one, and Joe a lacto-ovo vegetarian meal, which basically means it's vegetarian but you can have milk and eggs. Joe and I were both thankful for this. Unlike our most recent airline flight experiences, you can check out my previous videos for my flight reviews of those experiences. I was served a fish dish.
What is it?
Very dry fish. Could be peas. Was also served bread that had the consistency of cardboard and a salad that had no salad dressing. It was really like a coleslaw, not very pleasant. It was, however, made up for a very delicious tapioca passion fruit dessert. At least one good thing came out of the meal. Overall, for me, quite disappointing. Joe had a vegetarian rice curry, which she enjoyed quite a bit. How was it? Nice. Complimentary beer, wine and spirits were served, and I did have a couple of very nice New Zealand Merlots. As our flight drew in closer and closer to Auckland, I contemplated my flight experience. Overall, it was a very pleasant experience. The staff were friendly, accommodative, and attended to your needs. There was ample room in the cabin. The cabin had a really good vibe and a really good ambience. It was an old aircraft, but it looked like it was quite new inside. The food was slightly disappointing from a gluten-free Maximo perspective, but Joe really liked her vegetarian meal. So overall, I'd have to say that this is a pretty good experience and I would recommend this flight.
1 hour later.
We had a 1 hour and 45-minute layover at Auckland Airport. Auckland Airport is quite nice, spacious, and the terminal is quite big. When we originally booked this flight, it was to go to Auckland to Vancouver, but unfortunately Air New Zealand cancelled that flight. So we had to rebook the flight from Auckland to San Francisco, which meant that catching our next flight to Calgary gave us less options in terms of connecting flights, as well as a 5 hour 45-minute layover at San Francisco Airport. Anyway, we made our way through the security check and made our way to the departure gate. At the departure gates, it was a little bit of organised chaos. There were about 3 flights leaving more or less at the same time, and no one could hear any of the announcements that were being made. There were far few seats for the number of people that were gathered there waiting to leave. Anyway, eventually we did get on the plane. We were on flight NZ8, flying between Auckland and San Francisco, aboard a Boeing 7879 Dreamliner. The flight was scheduled to depart Auckland at 7:45 p.m, arriving in San Francisco at 12:50 p.m.
Hello, thank you. Straight turn right.
The plane did depart around about 10 minutes late. We were in the last group of passengers to get called aboard. We made our way to our Skycouch seats. Seats 42H, 42I and 42J. Skycouch cost a $700 Australian premium over the cost of 2 single economy seats. Basically what you're doing is buying the seats in the middle, and all 3 seats footrest comes up to 90 degrees, creating a flat bed surface. We boarded quite late and it was a bit dark, so I've been able to get some Air New Zealand footage of what the Skycouch looks like. And basically the 3 seats fold up to be larger than no more than a largish single bed. Perfectly okay for a young kiddie and a parent, but not okay for 2 reasonably sized adults. And from what we saw, adults and children were quite comfortable sleeping together, but no 2 adults had the 3 seats up. So when it was our turn to use a Skycouch, we only lied flat 2 of the seats, and one person sat in those 2 flat seats while the other person sat on the end. And we basically took it in turns to use the lie flat part. We were provided instructions on how to use the Skycouch, and they were fairly easy to follow. We booked the Skycouch because we were flying overnight on this long haul flight. The cost was around $350 each, or $700 for the both of us, versus a cost of premium economy return tickets, which were 2,000 Australian dollars per person each, in addition to the cost of an economy seat. And we thought the experience would fall somewhere between the 2. The cabin was quite modern looking, spacious, had a unique 333 configuration, and in terms of the chairs, they were comfortable, had a decent recline, and had oodles of legroom and plenty of storage. Normal economy seats don't have a footrest. The Skycouch footrests do adjust to 60 degrees, so that makes the comfort of the seat itself somewhat in line with the premium economy seat. I found the seats very, very comfortable. It was time to depart. We were nicely comfortable and settled in our seats and prepared for takeoff.
Make sure your own mask is fitted before assisting others.
I sing Iglesias, and I raise you this. It's pretty wonderful. The life jacket is with an easy reach. In economy class, it's like a thing.
It was a long-haul overnight flight of just over 12 hours and around 10,500 kilometres. The screen for the entertainment system was large and bright. There was quite a decent selection of movies and TV shows. The response and the touchscreen was quite good, and you even had the option of ordering meals and summoning a flight attendant. They also had a couple of recently run movies that I actually wanted to watch, so top marks for the entertainment system and its functionality. There was a reading light above the seat, but sadly no individual air vents. While it was fine for me, I think Joe found the ambient air temperature to be quite cold. After 45 minutes, we were served a main meals. As with our previous flight, I opted for a gluten-free meal and Joe for a lacto-ovo vegetarian meal. This time, I got a rice dish with very scrumptious and tasty chicken that made up for the poor fish dish on the previous flight. It was actually quite good, nice and hot, juicy, fantastic. I think it's a quinoa salad. Tastes nice.
It's hard to say.
It's interesting, is it?
It's interesting.
Okay. Well, I'm enjoying my rice and I think it's sort of an Asian chicken dish. It's quite nice.
Many minutes later.
Overall, I thought my meal was very, very good. Jo thought hers overall was fairly good. It was time to get some sleep, so we made 2 seats of the sky bed, and you can see that Jo settled in quite comfortably and was able to get to sleep relatively easily. We took it in turns to sleep in the bed section. I think Jo was able to get a lot more sleep while I was upright, and I probably got a little bit of sleep as well. After about 4 hours, Jo and I swapped. I went to the Skycouch section and Jo went to the end seat. Unfortunately for me, my back was playing up and I just couldn't get comfortable. My back was sore and I hardly got any sleep at all. So I only gave it about 3 hours and we swapped back again. I did manage to get a little bit more sleep in the seat on the end, as I found the footrest was able to recline at 60 degrees, making it reasonably comfortable. Jo got a fair bit more sleep than I did, so I think Jo found the experience much better in terms of sleep than I did. If you were to ask Joe if the premium of the Skycouch over normal economy was worth it, she'd say definitely yes. In my case, I found it not quite as comfortable or relaxing as she, and certainly got a lot less sleep. And I'd say, well, it's probably a marginal positive proposition for me. Around 8 hours after dinner was served, we were served breakfast. It was served around about 2 hours before we were due to land. I got quite a small serving of baked beans, potato, and egg, a fruit salad, and a little cake. The serve was quite small, and the food was, well, okay. Some sort of potato thing. Baked beans are nice. Not bad. Vegetarian meal, same as mine.
You got different.
Similar to mine.
You got that thing.
That must be gluten-free. Thinking of the experience of this flight, overall it was pretty good. The staff were really friendly, the service was prompt and efficient. The food was of a reasonable standard. We got to select our gluten-free and vegetarian meals. The seats were quite comfortable. I think the premium of the Sky Lounge overall was of benefit. It was certainly a lot cheaper than flying premium economy. Joe got the better of the sleeping, I think, and I found the seat was a bit too uncomfortable with someone with a bad back to sleep. So overall, I would highly recommend Air New Zealand, and would recommend the flight, and would also recommend the Skycouch, with the proviso that not everyone would be able to sleep well on there, and certainly it doesn't allow room for two adults to sleep side by side. I think I would have preferred flying direct to Vancouver and then from Vancouver to Calgary, because it took us around an hour and 3/4 to get through US Customs and Immigration. That's because we had to go from the San Francisco International Airport to an adjacent airport that was out on the street, basically. Then we had a 5 3/4 hour stopover. So that's a very long time to waste in travelling for the benefit of the Skycouch. If I was to do this again, I'd try and get a direct from Melbourne to San Francisco or even Vancouver flight, and avoid landing in Auckland. It was a bit disappointing that our Vancouver flight was cancelled, because our stopover at Vancouver would only have been about an hour and a half before a flight to Calgary, as opposed to a 5 hours 45-minute layover at San Francisco. So overall, I think I'd really question whether I'd do the same route again, especially if I was to fly on to Calgary. I have no hesitation about recommending Air New Zealand. The food was pretty good. The service was pretty good. We were able to select our gluten-free and lacto-ovo vegetarian meals, respectively. The Skycouch was reasonably good value for money and reasonably comfortable. We were able to get a reasonable amount of sleep on it. The cabins were great, modern, nice vibe, nice look and feel about them. There's really nothing to complain about flying with Air New Zealand. I'd certainly recommending flying with them again. My only question would be, would I select this route again if I could avoid a lengthy stopover, as well as an extra stop landing at Auckland. I will be doing a separate video for the WestJet flight between San Francisco and Calgary, so stay tuned for that one. I do hope you've liked this flight review. Did you know that only 2% of my viewers are subscribers? So it can really help my channel by hitting that like and subscribing to the channel. Also hit that notify bell so you'll be notified of all my future videos. You can also support my channel by buying me a coffee. Now, until our next review, you take care and bye now.